So to kick this off, we're going to start with Karen, who's going to cover some of the elements of how our brain perceives safety and how we feel safe in a space.
Cool, thank you. I always get nervous when people are like, okay, Karen's going to talk about the brain, because I feel like everybody just like glazes over like instantly, like, oh God. I promise I will keep this not a lot of neuroscience lingo, and we're actually just going to like dip our pinky toe into the pond of neuroscience. But it probably comes as no surprise to you that our brain's major function is to keep us alive. And they do that, our brains do that really by paying attention to interactions and our environment, and it triggers something either as safe and it feels rewarding, like, oh good, I'm safe in this environment, or holy crap, that's a threat, that doesn't feel good. And that's really a trigger for our brains. What's really interesting right now is that we are experiencing this a lot with our brains about how to keep ourselves safe. And you know, when we think about the coronavirus, you can't see the coronavirus, right? I mean, I'm sure we like imagine it. I envision it as the ghost from the Ghostbusters, that green guy. You know what I'm talking about? Like, that's the COVID-19 in my head. But we can't actually see the coronavirus. So our brains are paying attention to all these other visual or sensational triggers. So what we need to do as we, you know, pay attention to our space, and Cassie and Janine are going to talk much more about the actual tangible aesthetics of a space, as well as your interactions with your team. But we need to pay attention to the fact that your customers, your clients, are actually, during their experience in your space, they are subconsciously judging everything that they are experiencing. So every smell, every visual cue, everything they hear, their brains are taking that in, and it's filtering it either as an, ooh, I like that, that feels good, that feels safe, I'm gonna release some oxytocin, which is like what happens when you eat a bunch of chocolate or you fall in love. I feel good, right? Or, oh, that makes me feel really uncomfortable, that feels unsafe, that feels dangerous. And our brains actually register that, and it releases cortisol, which is like your stress hormone. And so I'm sure it's no surprise to you all that you want your customers to be in that eating chocolate, feeling love, right? Listening to Barry White zone, right? That's how they want to feel in your space. And so pay attention to that with your brain. And I'll give you a couple of little things, but then what I would love is for Cassie and Janine to talk about those tangible, actionable items you can do with your team members and your space. And then we can talk about what that's registering in somebody's brain. So Allison started off perfectly. The smell of Clorox, right? Right now, we're going to associate the smell of bleach, Clorox cleaning products with being sanitary and being clean. And so our brain's going to register that in a nice way. Just pay attention to what people are seeing, what they're smelling, what they're registering their brains as. Also, what's really important to pay attention to, our brains, these dang little buggers, pay attention to threat and things that are dangerous way more than they do something that makes them feel good. So you could do all of these things to make somebody experience a lovely, clean, safe space, but like one or two things that have a sense of danger, our brains wig out big time. It's 10 times as strong to experience a threat. So that might feel daunting, but just know that you might have to do, for people's brains, you're going to have to do a lot more of those cues, those experiential sensations that make somebody feel safe versus something that is going to be triggering. So that's a really overview, just paying attention to that. Your brain is registering all this. It's looking for things that are dangerous. It registers them much more intensely, especially right now with opening a safe space.